Hello and welcome to the Reverse Venture Capital session. My name is Dr. Kristen Burton, and I am an entrepreneurship professor at Purdue University Northwest. I will serve as the moderator for this session. I am accompanied by my colleague, Dilip Rao, who is the creator of the reverse VC concept. Before we get started in this discussion about the reverse VC, Dilip, why don't you just tell us a little bit about yourself?
Be glad to. I used to be a VC and venture financier for about 23 years. And we started as an LBO fund. We bought companies that were failing, turned them around. We did 5, failed on 1, succeeded on 4, financed about 400 deals plus, including VC, and built the fund. I retired a few years ago and became a consultant to HHS, Department of Health and Human Services. Went to the poor parts of the country and learned that money wasn't enough. People needed skills. These people had money. They didn't have skills. So I became an academic. I have a PhD. Joined various universities, teach at various universities. But I started researching billion-dollar entrepreneurs. And these are entrepreneurs who built their business from startup to more than $1 billion in sales and valuation. And then I also interviewed those who built to 100 million to 999 million. And so much of the stuff I've done since then has been based on both the VC part and the unicorn entrepreneurship part. The unicorn entrepreneurship is what these unicorn entrepreneurs did and how they did it. And often that is contrary to the current myth that you need VC. So I had to do a 180 when I learned how they did it and what they did.
Well, great. Thank you for telling us a little bit about yourself and to start to dive into the unicorn entrepreneurship unicorn. I read some of your work and it was very interesting because you stated that 94% of American unicorn entrepreneurs took off actually without venture capital funding, and 76% never used it at all. So tell us a little bit about what's your definition of a unicorn entrepreneur, and then maybe start to talk a little bit about the reverse venture capital concept.
Sure. I put 2 categories into unicorn entrepreneur. First is someone who built a venture from startup to more than $1 billion in sales and valuation. If you look at the unicorns as defined by the VCs, they only look at valuation. And I've written a blog where I can help any entrepreneur in the world, in the universe, if they're, build a unicorn in 1 week. That is the easiest thing to do. And there's go to my Forbes blogs and it shows you how to do it. And it can be manipulated. So if you really want to look at unicorn entrepreneurs, I look at sales and valuation, not just valuation. So I've financed in my financial days, I financed 9 unicorn entrepreneurs. 2 of them built billion-dollar companies, 7 built $100 million companies. And I interviewed 33, about 7 were billion-dollar, the rest were unicorn. And then I analyzed another 80 who were all billion-dollar entrepreneurs. Because I didn't want someone to say, well, you've only looked at the billion-dollar entrepreneurs. I want to look at the next level. And so that's who unicorn entrepreneurs are.
Okay. And so this whole concept of reverse venture capital, I think you stated that it is really kind of starting with the customer?
No, actually starting with the entrepreneur.
Okay.
It's based on the entrepreneur. What reverse VC does is mixes the best of unicorn entrepreneurship with venture capital.
Okay.
Venture capital has a lot of limitations. The VCs don't like to publicize it. I don't know, because of the ego, because of the fees or whatever. I didn't publicize it when I was a VC because who wants to say I can't walk on water? If somebody believes I can walk on water, why not? Let them believe that. But the VC has a lot of limits. And so if you look at what unicorn entrepreneurs did, they took off without venture capital and they kept control. So how they did it is what unicorn entrepreneurship is. And so reverse VC basically combines the best of those so we can build more unicorns and more unicorn entrepreneurs, especially in minority communities and motivated communities.
So how does the reverse VC work?
Okay, well, basically what reverse VC does is understand, first of all, the limits of VC.
Okay.
VC has a timing issue, and that is they like to finance after AHA. AHA is when your venture's potential is evident. So if I can create a technology that can cure cancer, my technology is evident. If I have a long list of research in cancer research and I have some lab work that shows that I have a potential cure, I may get some venture capital. The second is strategy AHA. This is when I develop a technology like coming up with an app to date, help people date or find dating partners. Thousands of people can do it. The question is, do you have a strategy that can take off? So that's strategy AHA. And that's what Mark Zuckerberg did. He basically imitated somebody else's idea for his Facebook thing. Some people say he stole the idea. I wouldn't go that far. We can say appropriated to be diplomatic, because he paid a penalty. But he appropriated the idea, he developed a strategy, and he beat Rupert Murdoch. So think about it. A student in a lab, 19-year-old, without the resource of Rupert Murdoch beating him because of a strategy. So that's strategy AHA. And that's what 5% of the unicorn entrepreneurs did. 18% went on to proving their leadership capacity. People like Bill Gates, people like Mark Zuckerberg, people knew when they were taking off that they had terrific capacities. And so they funded not just the venture, but them. Bill Gates, Jeff Bezos, Mark Zuckerberg could get tons of venture capital because of their skills. And then the 76%, the last group, essentially never did it. So first is a timing limit. How do you get there? Second is a scope limit. VC helps 20 out of 100,000 people. If you look at it, they finance 100 out of 100,000 and they fail on 80. Most people don't know that VCs fail on 80%. So only 20 out of 100,000 entrepreneurs are helped by VC. And reverse VC, because of skills, can help everybody. The third is the area limit. If you look at the venture capital statistics, VC has done very well in Silicon Valley. It hasn't done as well outside Silicon Valley. So if you use reverse VC, that can help anywhere because you can help people grow with skills. Utah, for instance, has built a network of these unicorns, and the VCs are going there. You don't have to go to VC. The VC comes to you. Mark Zuckerberg had Peter Thiel fly from Silicon Valley to Boston. He didn't have to go and beg for VC. He didn't have to go to pitch competitions. The VCs came to him and said, please, please take my money. That's achievement.
So I hear you talking a lot about skills, talk about leadership, talk about strategy. Do you have any input on how entrepreneurs can develop these skills so that they can be more marketable?
Well, the first question is, you can separate your question into two. Okay. First is strategy. What kind of strategy should be used? The second are the skills to get the strategies executed. Now, some of these skills can be learned as the venture grows, so you don't need to know all of them at the start. The strategies, let's first talk about them. You have four. I divide the venture from idea to takeoff and from takeoff to domination. And the reason for that is after you've taken off, after people see your potential, they will come to your door, knock on your door and say, please, may I invest? That's what they did to Jan Koum. Jan Koum built WhatsApp. And he reached 250 million users with an investment of 250,000 raised by his partner. And that's when the VCs came to him and begged him to take their money. And he took one of theirs and then sold the business to Facebook. So idea to take off, you need four strategies, four types. One is your product strategy. What are you going to sell? This is where there's a whole bunch of misconceptions. People think the idea is the key. It isn't. First, people say first mover. That's basic garbage. Uh, there are studies from the Federal Reserve that show that 89% of first movers fail. Only 11% dominate. So 9 out of 10 don't do well. Why? The products can be imitated. That's what Mark Zuckerberg did. That's what Steve Jobs did. That's what Bill Gates did. They did not develop the product. They just stole somebody else's product. The second is a crucial one, strategy. How do you come up with the right strategy? Now, the trouble with this is you can't do it on paper. I can teach you the components on paper, but putting it together is a problem. For instance, who would have guessed in their right minds that this obscure entrepreneur from the rural areas of Arkansas would beat the world's greatest companies like Kmart? And that's what Sam Walton did, because his strategy was fantastic. He was one of the companies we funded, incidentally, as he was rampaging through Wisconsin and Minnesota. But his strategy was unbelievable. Bill Gates' strategy was unbelievable. So you need to look at strategy. Third is financing. How do you finance with the right mix of internal capital, external capital, at least until you take off? Once you take off, then the VCs will come to you. They will not ask that you be shunted aside. This is the thing that many entrepreneurs don't know. 30% of all VC-funded ventures have a new CEO. They basically say, we like your idea, but not you. So please exit stage left. And they find the new CEO, which is what happened to Steve Jobs. Okay? Now think about it. In my mind, he and Jeff Bezos are two of the greatest entrepreneurs of the last 50 years. If Steve Jobs can be fired, most of you don't have much of a chance. Okay? You can be fired if you give up control, which means what you need to do if you want to stay in control is to get to leadership aha. So the VCs come to you and beg that they fund you. And they will, because money is money. So that's the third skill. How do you finance until takeoff? And the fourth is, how do you put it all together? This is like a plane taking off. You have limited runway, you have limited capital. I used to get entrepreneurs all the time who would say, if I only had, I just invested 500,000, I've run out of capital. If I can only get another 300,000 from you, I can take off. And my reaction is, you lost 500,000, now you want 300,000. Where is my money going to go? Down the tube. Which means you need to take off with limited capital. Once you've taken off, the world will come to you. And so what I'm focusing on is, how do you help entrepreneurs from any community get the strategies to go from idea to take off? And there are skills that you need to do that. I can go into that unless you have a question.
Yeah, I was just going to ask, so those are the key priorities of the reverse VC, the skill sets, or are there other priorities?
It's both the strategies and the skills.
Okay.
You need to have the right strategy, and you need to have the skills to implement the strategy. Okay?
Yes.
Now, the strategy is not always clear. Just as I said, I'm an entrepreneurial educator now, so I'm not trying to put anybody down. But we have all this focus on mentors and so forth. You know what? Nobody stands in the same stream twice.
Right.
I ran businesses 30, 40 years ago. I haven't financed a business for 20 years, other than my own portfolio. The stream has gone by. I will not mentor anyone because I'm not in the current stream. Secondly, and most importantly, if I'm going to mentor you, I don't know your skill sets. I can mentor you in terms of the basic accounting and finance, but I can't mentor you in strategy. You're on your own. So you need to find out, like Bill Gates did, that this operating system would control the PC world. Right. And he snookered IBM into giving him a non-exclusive. You need to know, like Mark Zuckerberg, that this Facebook thing would dominate universities and take off from there. That's strategic insight. Jeff Bezos coming up with books as the way to go. That is the key point. Okay. How do you do that? There are ways to find it, but nobody can predict it. And so what you need to do is to teach people how to do it and then see who finds it and then reward those if they need funding.
Okay. So I know you've done some, just to kind of move on to some more topics, I know you've done some work with minority entrepreneurs. What are some of the key lessons that you can give us for minority entrepreneurs?
Well, in many ways, and I know you'll think it's funny if I say this, the world is the same. And I wrote a blog on this. Most majority entrepreneurs have the same issue, unless you went to Harvard or Stanford, okay? Harvard and Stanford entrepreneurs get a buy. They can get into anything just because they got into Harvard or Stanford. But other than that, most white entrepreneurs in Minnesota or Utah, whatever, don't get venture capital. Most women don't get venture capital. So we always tend to think that we are in this group that is being discriminated against. Guess what? Venture capital discriminates against everybody except those who have proved their venture's potential. But the problem is this, and this is what I'm finding. People in the majority communities have the skill sets, okay? And we need to start focusing on the skill sets. So what are the skill sets? That's where we should go. First is you need technical skill sets in emerging industries. Now, I joke when I give lectures that I'm going to start this Norwegian taco chain of stores because I'm an honorary Norwegian. And I challenge people, see if you can beat me, get started. Why? Because anybody can start a Norwegian taco thing. There is no emerging industry. But if you look at, there is only one consistent rule I found among the unicorn entrepreneurs. Every one of them that I found jumped on an emerging industry, an industry that had started, but before it took off. Okay. So I don't even bother anymore with people who are not in an emerging industry. You need to be on an emerging industry, but you need to have the skill sets in an emerging industry. Okay. Those are technical skill sets, whatever emerging industry you're in. And if you don't have that, you're behind the 8 ball. We should start with that. We should teach computer programming. We should teach app development. We should teach whatever it is that they want to get into an emerging industry. Chipotle got into the emerging industry of organic food. Same with that grocery store chain that Bezos bought. I forget the name, Whole Foods. So that's the first. The second is sales skills. Sales skills is tough to teach, one-on-one sales. But sales skills are easier to teach online. And that's what I sometimes joke about. I said, people like me who couldn't sell much, I sold for one semester when I was in the summer when I was doing my PhD, just to learn how to sell and get over the fear of it. But most people who are intellectually oriented don't know how to sell, but they can go online and sell. And I've just interviewed some entrepreneurs and put it on Forbes of people who've built $1 billion business because he knew how to sell online and he sold beauty products online. So online we can teach sales. The third and most important, finance skills. And this is what I'm focusing on, of how to teach people entrepreneurial finance, alternate financing sources, and putting it together in real time so that they can launch.
So finding the right financing.
Right financing, making it work. It's not enough to find it. If 80% of venture capital funded ventures fail, that means they're screwing up somewhere. Half of all entrepreneurs fail. They found the financing. They failed. Mm-hmm. So we need to teach them how to manage money in order to succeed. That is as crucial as finding capital. Because most entrepreneurs, I just saw the previous one, teams and this and that. Who's going to join you when nobody can see your potential? Everybody will join you after they see potential. So you have to have those skills, at least until you can show potential so people can join you. Nobody else is going to give the time of day to entrepreneurs. So we need to go beyond team and say, how can we develop entrepreneurs?
Great.
And then obviously operational skills.
Absolutely. So you're really focusing with the reverse venture capital model on giving people these skills, focusing on what types of financing they need in order for them to then move into the venture capital? Or do you think that, entrepreneurs really should move forward without it?
I'm agnostic on that. So last question first. I don't care, because once an entrepreneur has taken off, they create more deals. Some of them will go in the direction of no VC, some of them will go in the direction of VC. Hallelujah. Let all of them benefit. Okay? So it's not a question of anti-VC, VC, I don't give a crap. The point is this: how can we create more deals so that the VCs will come? Okay? How can we create the Pied Piper so that the VCs will come?
Yes.
But to get there, we need to teach them smart strategies and skills. The reason I keep emphasizing smart strategies is those are easier to teach. Okay. Skills are more difficult. It'll take a long time to teach you the skills to write code. It'll take a long time to teach you how to sell. I can teach people how to do the finance and financing. So not just the financing, but the finance part too. Okay. I can teach that in a few days and then monitor them as they go along. But we need to combine all of this if we are really going to build it, and not just do the simplistic, oh, let's just raise venture capital. Every person who keeps saying, let's raise venture capital, has forgotten history. And history is a group of organizations run by the SBA, funded by the US government, called MESBICs, Minority Enterprise Small Business Investment Companies. You should read the history of that. Out of 180, only 4 succeeded. 176 failed. Why? Because they didn't have enough home runs. Why is that important? In any average VC portfolio, 80% of all deals fail. The 20% that succeed, you need a home run. You need a company like eBay, where you invest 7 million and it becomes 2.4 billion in 18 months. It pays for a whole bunch of failures. Same thing with the incubator that funded Google. They had Google as success. The fund broke even because they had so many failures. So it's not enough to say we have funds and we have this and so forth. You need to have a home run.
Right.
Or you need to be late stage. There are many late stage VCs who keep acting like they're early stage, right, because it's more romantic, that they're risk-taking pirates. No, they're not. They're late stage.
Well, do you have any recommendations for our entrepreneurs who are out there listening to you, who may need some of these skills, or who may need help in structuring their financing? I know you've talked a lot about what skills that they will need. Do you have any recommendations?
I've been struggling to convince even people like Emil to cut out his pitch competitions and get into skills competitions. And if I have been having trouble convincing Emil, I'm going to have trouble with everybody, because everybody is so convinced of the VC myth. So where can they go? Well, write to me. I'm working with a credit card company in order to launch a program to teach people the skills and smart strategies, and hopefully that happens. And if it doesn't happen, unfortunately, entrepreneurs are stuck with the old venture capital.
Well, you do have ways that people can get in contact with you. I did see that you have done some blogs as well as some writing. That's very interesting, especially on Forbes. So what's the best way for them to contact you?
Get in on LinkedIn, because I sometimes miss some of my emails, but get in on LinkedIn and link with me. And I'm starting a YouTube channel. I've got Forbes blogs. I've got some books out. The next step is to actually launch a global workshop program to teach people how to do this. And I'm talking to 3 groups about doing it in regions so that I can work in that region. And that's why the credit card company is coming in. But get in on LinkedIn and link with me, and I'll let you know when I get to the next stage.
Well, just to kind of wrap up, is there anything that you want to leave with our audience? Any kind of burning leave behind that you want that they can connect with them?
Any burning messages? Okay. Well, I have 4 suggestions. It is not about your idea. It is about you. Okay. I've got my idea for Norwegian tacos. Please take it, because I'm going to look at what you've done. I'm going to improve on what you've done, and I'm going to beat you. So it is not about your idea. It's about you and your skills. Pitch competitions are meaningless. except if you're the entrepreneur, go and do it, because you might get a few $1,000 and never say no to a few $1,000 as an entrepreneur. But for all you sponsors who are doing pitch competitions, it's basically garbage. Financiers will seek you out after AHA. So you need to get to AHA. You need to focus on that time period from idea to AHA and keep control, keep control, keep control. Don't give control to anyone. I can give you horror stories of entrepreneurs who've lost control of their idea, of their venture, and somebody else came in and made millions. In one case, the entrepreneur got 150,000 after a lawsuit. The financier who took the venture basically sold the venture for 140 million. So don't lose control of your idea, even to VCs. Stay in control. Unless, of course, becoming rich is not important. And if becoming rich is not important, don't become an entrepreneur. It's too much of a hassle.
All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us today, Dilip. I mean, your comments are definitely something for all of us to think about. We really appreciate your time with us today, and I think that's the end of our session.
Thank you.